good evening, everyone. I do hope that we'll have a few people come in and join us this evening. Oh, that's me and one other person. It's always lovely. Hi Sheila, can you just tell me that you can hear me and see me all right, my darling? I have the phones, my sound on my phone switched right down so that I don't disturb and we don't get a horrible echo. Good evening, Joan. Welcome, welcome. Good evening, Jill. I think that's your answer to your question. I'm feeling much better myself, ladies. Am I still coughing and sputtering? Unfortunately, yes. Which is not good. Thank you very much, Sheila, for letting me know. Good evening, Faith. Thank you so much for joining us. So, we're going to be making a decorative box. I'm keeping it unnamed, but it would work as a gift box or a Christmas Eve box or a storage box. Your choice, I think, depending on what you want to do with it. So it's a rather large box because that's what I had lurking. So let's just pop some of it around. Done a bit of prep. You wouldn't expect me to have done anything else, I think. Just shuffle that before I go and sit down on something I don't want to sit down on. Excuse me, not that I'm a skinflint like, but there we are. Right, I think we might abandon that one. I do have another things. So I am using up paints at the moment because I have a ridiculous amount of gubbins in my stash, and I think that it's a that it's a good idea to use things up, partly because your paints will go dry if you're not, if they're left open, because once the factory seal is broken, no matter what you do, they will thicken over time, particularly when you live in a when you store stuff in the conservatory, which is aka my craft room. So I'm keeping the base and the background for my projects today relatively simple. I didn't want to be here for ages, though it will be a good hour, I think, by the time I've got everything to dry. So this is Morgagno, which is a Stamperia colour. It's been released in several of their collection packs, so I'm sure many of you will have it. And if not, any nice darky brown colour will work just fine, because we're not actually going to be able to see very much of it. Let me move away from here. Yes, Anthony, it is a dark red brown. It's mahogany, so it's got a little bit of a red undertone, I think, on it, so that but any dark brown would work. I just looked to see what browns I had plenty of, and what ones that I felt needed to be used, rather than opening new pots. So you'll see me using quite a lot of different companies make products at the moment, partly because, as I say, I'm intending using up stuff, and I am definitely enjoying being able to make with lots of different companies' products, and which is cool, because mix and match is also quite cool, I reckon. Let me just move that up there, because into sight. There we are. I just need a layer of the brown. We will have a little mop up in a minute, because I don't like mess. and this is going to need a bit of a dry. So it can go on the floor, and we'll paint the inside of the next one. Good evening, Tracy. Oh, 2 Tracys. Thank you very much for joining us. It is a beautiful colour brown. It's neither too dark nor too pale, and it's probably one of my go-tos, which possibly explains why I had 2 pots of it in the cupboard, and both of which were opened. So time to use it up. So let's give that, and then I've got my fan on, ladies and gentlemen, so that can have a dry. I have done the, let me just wipe that because I'm going to contaminate the outside of my box, with the lower part of the box, which I've already done for here. So I won't show you what I've done on the outside until we've got the next bit dry, but there we are. There we are. That looks a bit more manageable. That can sit there. That means I won't damage this. And then we're going to decorate the inside. Now we're doing an imprecise amount of pressing, really, because I didn't want brown and I didn't want cream, and I sort of wanted, well, I didn't really know what colour I wanted, so I just sort of went for it. So that's the Morgagno, because it gives it a red undertone, and this is Tortora, so which I think is in current parlance from Stamperia is probably Nougat. I might be wrong, but again, it's a use it up activity. And I'm deliberately putting a lot in because A, the box is quite big, and B, because I'm going to mix it all as is, and I don't really want to be messing about, and if that looks too dark when it's mixed up, so it's going to give me quite almost a reddy colour. Certainly a reddy brown. I think that will be much darker than the lid that I've already done. So let's just add a whole mountain more of that one. There we are. So yeah, precise painting, precise colouring, not one bit of it. Easy makes, because at this time of the year it's all very well to have projects that take us ages and ages and ages, isn't it? But sometimes we just need to have projects that are quick, no minimum hassle, and will do the job. So let's just and it's definitely easier to mix up a bigger quantity, spread it around, than try and replicate the imprecise ratios that I did when I just literally plonked stuff together. So just mix until you're happy with the colour that you've got, and that will work quite nicely. It doesn't have to be precise. Don't necessarily want runs. Yeah, let's just smooth out the paint lines there. Because this just, as I say, it just has to be done, because I like my projects to be finished, and that includes insides and outsides, and yeah, just make sure I've got all of that. So as I say, this is a wooden box. It's but a papier-mâché one appropriately sealed would work just as well as would an MDF one that you've made up. So just because I'm using a wood box doesn't mean that that's what everyone else has to use, of course. I'm a great believer, you know, in using what we have around us, and I am conscious that budgets are limited. It could be, you know, a box that's been sitting on the side, could be a biscuit tin, though you would need to prime a biscuit tin with an appropriate primer. My primer of choice would definitely be bonding primer, popped on, metal, left to dry for 24 hours, and then a second layer popped on and left to dry for 24 hours. So it might take a bit of prep, but for me it's worth it. And let's see, and make sure I have got it all covered, otherwise I'll have to do another custom layer, custom mix off live to get it done. There we are. And up for a change, I actually took this apart. Wasn't I a well-behaved child? Now, I know I didn't take off everything, but that's because in the past, when I've taken off everything, I've then popped stuff on round the wrong way, and then regretted it and had to dismantle and redo screw holes and fill ones where they were in the wrong place. It's all very well, it does take time, but it's all sortable. But if we can avoid it, and sorry about the sniffing, not very nice, I know, but I can't do much about it. As I say, this is now approaching 3 weeks, I think. Certainly good 2 weeks. There we are. Right. So that can now go onto the floor. So let's, while we dry this, I'm sorry about the noise, ladies, let's just see who else is right. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, custom mixing is cool. It does, you learn to mix, you learn what works, and it really helps if you're trying to blend in rice papers into each other. So that's good. I'm not monitored that I didn't prime this box first because I'm doing multiple layers. If I wanted a solid brown colour, I would have absolutely primed my box with acrylic primer, or even or gesso, or as this is porous, I wouldn't have used the bonding primer for this one. And that's just we got it reasonably dry. We just need to have it dry because I can't put the next layer onto this to park in front of my fan heater until I've done this bit. And natural drying is definitely always better than forced drying, because forced drying will dry the top, but it risks it being it's brilliant stuff if you're working with glasses or acrylic or pottery. That's its primary uses. I know I've seen it being used by lots of people for other reasons, but that's its primary intended use. So I'm going to use the one component or mono component crackle medium from Pentart, which will give me, well, partly because it's a super quick crackle, and because some of the others take a lot longer to do, and because it will give me a weathered, irregular crackle that I quite like. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. This is, I came down the stairs this morning and my husband said, "Oh, your voice sounds normal today," because it hasn't really. So you can indeed use crackle on top of bonding primer. I would always add a layer of paint first, but if you just wanted the white of the bonding primer to show through as your crackle or as your underlayer, you could absolutely just pop it on over the top. It will work fine. I use it, a lot of my faux porcelain makes will use the will have bonding primer on. Oops, I don't want that underneath there. You're welcome, Anthony, happy to help. And it's easier to ask questions, isn't it, than, you know, I think it's really important that we do. I've spent a long, many years learning how all of these assorted paints, mediums and mischiefs work, and getting to know ones that I find are reliable, because unfortunately not all brands are super easy to work. Some of them are fickle. I will always share if I find if I think a medium has tricks and tips that will make it easier, or or ones that you absolutely, companies do keep bringing more out, but broadly they're very simple. There are a few types, and there are a few, and most of the rolls are reasonably static. So let's pop that there. Right. So, oh, she says that's spot welded to there. So these are from the IOD gingerbread mould, and I ummed and ahed about whether to get this mould, thinking, would I use it, would I not use it? You could cast these quite happily if you wanted to in clay. I've done mine in resin, A, because I'm super lazy and it allows me to have them ready really quickly, and B, because they're very solid. So let's shovel that out of the way. Now conveniently, let's just move those bits out of the way for the start with. So there we are. I want these to look sort of like gingerbread, and Pentart have Stamperia have a paint conveniently called biscotto or biscuit. So to my mind that was the logical go-to paint. So we might be here for the month of Sundays if I pick that very small brush. Hi Alison, I am definitely feeling better. Am I perfect? No, but am I better than I was? So I have cast these and I have covered them with a primer, and they might look a bit orange, but they won't. They won't at the end of the day. So these have lots of texture inbuilt into the mould, so they look like biscuits basically. There we go. I could get out a one-haired paintbrush bore you all silly, but I won't. We're going to keep this reasonably straightforward this evening, because I think that that's a good move. And then we're going to add the details in afterwards. So biscotto seemed to me like a logical colour for gingerbread. This mould has mummy and daddy, little boy and little girl. You can take the mummy and the daddy and the little boy and cast two and put them back to back quite happily to make a hanging ornament. The little girl you can't do that with because she's got a bow, I'll show you that later, on her hair, so she's not symmetrical, but the others are, which is very convenient. So that one can sit there. There we are. Let me move in a little bit further. But they are beautiful, and I think that they would work for children's parties, for as hanging decorations, for children's bedrooms. I think there's lots of uses, as well as ornaments and decorations. So there we go, just knock that piece off there. I absolutely did have the cough for ages last time I had COVID, and was worn out for ages afterwards, and I have to say this is following the same pathway, because I'm not old enough to be eligible for the vaccine. So I might ignore that next time, and because I'm increasingly having to be my husband's carer. So I do think that that would probably count as acceptable from because carers of those that were vulnerable are allowed it. And I can tidy up some of these areas. When I'm adding the next layers of colour, because these have all got beautiful clothes on. And I'm sort of pushing my brush. If I put it on here away from the thing and then push it up, then to get a neater finish in these areas. They're not, although they look uber complicated, I don't think they are uber complicated. Yeah, there are some moulds that have so much detail. So this is the cute little girl, and she's got a bow and a little dress. So yeah, I think we can do. Now we can have a little bit of a think. I've got some colour choices. I did and ahh about keeping it really simple, really simple, and just doing them all brown, but I am going to dress them rather than keep it so they look like they might have been properly iced, rather than just taking the easy, lazy way out of it. Though having said that, with a bit of antiquing paint it will work. And I know I've just smudged over that bow, but again, it does not matter. Really does not matter at this point, because it's a surface detail that I've gone over. I can sort that out with a much finer brush. So we have a little Scotty dog. He's rather cute with his woolly jumper. There we are. So hopefully we won't be here forever in a month of Sundays. Yeah, Mr. Scotty Dog, it is rather lovely, isn't he? So, trust everyone is well, that you might be beginning to think about what you're doing in terms of Christmas makes, if you've got plans. I don't think it's too early to be thinking about that. Yeah. Particularly if you've got lots of cards and presents to make for people. And of course, if you're a cross stitcher or a quilter or a knitter, you've probably been making for an awful long time. Good evening, Patricia. Welcome, welcome. I'm doing a mixed media box with some lovely gingerbread people mould, and tonight I'm using Pentart mediums, but I'm using Stamperia paints, partly because the colour mixes were there, partly because I'm using up paints that I've had open for a while and don't want them to dry out. And by a while I mean a good couple of years. So I don't want people panicking that they've got lots of paints that they never, that they've opened and they'll all go off quickly, because they won't. But it does pay to do that. Now then, we've got options, so please shout. We can go for the little girl and the mummy, either the pink or the red, or we can do a bit of each and tone the pink down. Option for the girl. Option pink. Option for the boy is the dark blue, not that I think there might be much of that on, or the blue avio. So the darker blue or the paler blue. Pink seems to be the universal preferred option for that one. We might use some red on some bows later on the little boys. So for the second option for the boys, is blue A the dark one, Jan, or the pale or the light one? Light blue, light blue, light blue. Excellent. Well, that wasn't too painful, ladies. Well done. It's always good. Let's see if we can find something halfway respectable to paint with. Pinky, pinky, pink. Perhaps we won't use that plate that's got all sorts of dust on it. Perhaps we will grab another one that's cleaner. I've got bits of metallic. Okie dokie. That was an easy set. No controversial decisions there. So let's just take this pale pink. If I'm sensible and careful, we might get away without having to paint the white. She says. I do have white to paint with, so I've got another plan as well. So there we are. Because gingerbread are sugar dusted, aren't they? Well, they are in my head. There we are. I will have to get a little brush out for that bit, because otherwise we'll be making a pickle around the buttons. Well, let's just make a pickle around the buttons and have done with it, and then we can sort the buttons out afterwards. There it's going to be quicker, isn't it, than faffing for a small brush at that point in time. So there we are. So just bear with while I do all of the painting. We'll have a little check in a minute and see how step one of, well, we don't need to actually, we can just do this and carry on. There we are. So these are relatively friendly moulds, I think. So that's that one. In terms of painting, there we are. We don't, and that's good, isn't it? Because sometimes you just don't need to be spending hours. I've got some beautiful nutcracker molds, but I don't really think that they are. There's 5 different ones in the set, and I've seen them done in several different ways, including just whacking a single colour and an antiquing paint over, waxes over the top, and they're fine like that. But I've got sort of the idea of having each one separately coloured, with each part of the clothing separately coloured, and that might just drive everyone completely doolally on a live if I decided to do that little lot. There we are. Hopefully. I might as well have a pink bow, because that's what we do, isn't it? If you're going to do it, you're going to have a pink bow. You don't really want to touch up with that one, do you, woman? There we are. And there's always bits you miss, always, whatever you do. So one little dress with a pink . No, I haven't got a warm drink here for my throat, but that'd be far too sensible. Far too sensible. And I've got another live tomorrow, ladies, I'm afraid. I've got one for Pentart tomorrow. We're doing a Christmas home decor decoration stroke winter decoration. Pentart sort of said winter could be Christmas, but Christmas really towards the end of the month. They never get upset no matter what we do, to be fair to oh, she says, well, that'll be good, won't it? Throw it around. And there we are. Thank you very much, Faith. Arvio. Okay. Oh, the colour of the blue. Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah. Well, when I first started using Stamperia products, everything was labelled in Italian. So that tells you how old some of my products are, because they haven't done that now for 2 or 3 years. Let me just move some of this gubbins around. There we are. So yeah, so so we've managed to get most of that. And don't be afraid to go back over. Aha, that was the area that you caught that you hadn't got hold of. Right, excellent. So that can go there. Let's give that a little wriggle. There we are. And let's go for the paler blue. So blue avio, if you're looking for it, will be aviation blue. Because sometimes it's quite helpful to know what the alternatives are, isn't it? Well then, do we want blue cuffs or white cuffs? I think we're going to go for... Good, I'm glad it helps, Jan. It can be a pain, can't it? But yeah, but we have to remember that you know, Stamperia is an Italian brand, so it's not unreasonable that they might have their paints. Ah, dear, oh dear, and now we've got brown on there. Blue, well, we don't want it. And the joy of painting. There we are, we'll just cover that up, let that dry. I no doubt I'll have more that needs touching up. What colour pants do we want? Do we want red or do we want dark blue? Oops, I've done them white. I've done them. Well, I'm going to add white into this anyway, Faith. So I'm sorry. Or do we want matching pants and jumper? I'll tell you why, because I'd already made a mess before I looked up. So. I'd gone over. Yeah. We're going to be adding stuff to these anyway, so there we are. Dark blue pants. Okie dokie, I can do that, assuming that there's enough dark blue in those. Do we want a red dicky bow or a dark blue dicky bow? Not like asking everyone else to make decisions for me this evening. Dark blue seems to be the favoured decision. That's fine. We can do that. So So red. Okay. Yeah, red would work actually as a contrast to the for that would work quite nicely. Have I got everything? Red dicky bow, excellent. I'll stick that there. Cool. Let that red dry down a little bit before I do that. Remember, I can add in colour quite happily, and we'll be adding back in some white onto these, so never fear, they're not all going to look exactly the same. If you can get the base coat down, then that will work. Right. Sorry ladies, one head brushed painting time. There's definitely occasions when getting out their fine brush is required. Dear oh dear, now we've got more blue where we don't want it, but that's okay. We'll just pretend that didn't happen and we'll sort it out in a minute. A little bit easier maybe to have left those white, but hey ho, you lives and you learns. Right. Just from where this pink is drying, I can see some gaps, so let's just cover that. Right, let us, like that, maybe a red coat. Well, I was umming about that, or the dark blue, but I think if we go red dicky red coat, that will work very well. What am I doing? What am I doing? You see, I've got bits that I don't like the look of in there, and of course not on a live. I pick these up, put them right up to my head, shoulders, up to my eye, yeah, right up to my eyes. Possibly put a pair of glasses on, possibly not, and we'll be able to see where we were up to. So let me just sort out the mess that we have currently around these little boys and sort those out and tidy these up. Yeah. There we are. No, we won't do that and put probably white blue over everything. I think this can be considered a joint project, really, can't it, with all of the colour deciding that's going on? But that's cool. It's nice to be involved. There we are. So let us get some of this dark blue out. Ooh, way too much for what we've got, but hey ho. Let's find a reasonably nice brush. That's it, coming increasingly harder in amongst my mess, but hey ho. There we are. There we are. So I have to say I do like the quality of the Stamperia paints. Mind you, Stephanie said that they're made by Pentart, so they're Pentart paints, and I like Pentart paints, so I guess I should like these, really, shouldn't I? Given that they're just colours chosen for the Stamperia collections. Yeah. Okay. Scotty in a red coat. We can do that. And I've deliberately gone for a warm corally red for this one. We could go burgundy. Just to be difficult. Red or burgundy. And I shall let you make the decision. Doesn't matter which. Good evening, June. Hi Di, thank you for joining me. I know there's a bit of a delay, isn't there, between here and Facebook. So, red or burgundy? Hi Sarah John, thank you for joining. The red, excellent. I like it when we make a decision. It's always cool. So let's just give that a bit of a clean. And then it'll match the red dicky bow, won't it? We're going to add, oops, she says, having slipped there. Never mind. It's, as I say, it's all sortable. All sortable. I hope you've recovered from the weekend's antics and that work's been okay today, Sarah John. We'll sort out the bits that I slopped in a minute because that was my bad. There we are. let's let that dry. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a lovely weekend. Your hospitality is amazing. The lovely Liz Wheeler and I had a retreat at the weekend up in Thornton, Cleveley, so up on the beautiful Fylde coast. Not that we saw the sea, hasten to add, because we were busy crafting, but we had a lovely time. Yeah, that can go there. Let's just sort out the mess that we managed to make. So let's make Mr. Tail back into brown and neaten up that bit of that. Get rid of the blue from his head. I will use a pen to put the eyes in later on. Now let's see what we've got. We've got a bit there. There we are. Let's just add, really make that red a clean red. And tidy around the face. Okay. Cokey. Right. They can sit there and dry. Without like having a challenge, we could leave it simple, or we could add some extra details to the box in the corners, which I've got ready. So we're just going to go over on the live, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't think you'll mind, will you? So these are little gumdrop sweets, pinwheel sweets that again come from the same mould. These could be used certainly at lots of different times of the year, I think. And yes, there's a candy cane in the mould. Unfortunately, it's a candy cane that only points in one direction, which is always a bit of a bugbear because I like pairs that go in opposite directions. But there's, yeah, she says, there we are. There we are. So we're definitely going to be over an hour tonight, ladies. There's nothing I can do about that. But well, there is. I could just stop the live and go home and you send you all off on your way. But that seems to me to be a little bit silly to do that. So there we are. Let's just, we'll but we have got a couple of steps that we need to do. There we are. And because it's a bit blue and green, oh no, we need 4 of those. We have a plan, needless to say. I know you can only paint so fast, and I could do it. I could have done half of it up front, but hey ho, you know, I think sometimes it's good to, you know, just to not necessarily have to everything too much prepped in advance, because otherwise you can be off-putting when people try to, you know, want to go and do it themselves, and it takes them forever. You know, and yeah, I could take a lot longer doing this, but there we are. So we're going to have our pool sweets, our toffees. In green. Yeah, absolutely realistic. Well, certainly realistic mixed media crafting, isn't it? You know, I think, you know, if you make, yeah, a card, and yeah, but even if you're stamping and you're doing lots of intricate colour colouring in. It just does take its time, doesn't it? We all know that realistically that our hobbies are not 5-minute wonders when it comes to our activities. There we are. And to be fair, we could be taking a lot longer. And we don't have, we've got some drying to do and some antiquing. So let me get rid of mucky Bakelite, and pop that out the way. Let's actually protect my one-haired brush, because they're really easy to mess up. I think people do need to know the steps, Anthony. It's I think it's really important that people see all the steps and also perhaps understand the logic behind what's going in my rather scary brain. Because I accept that my brain is a rather scary place. I don't need to. There we are. Right. That's not quite there yet. So, okay, let's give these a little waste dry. Sorry ladies, we have to have noise at this point in time. Yeah. Shuffle those over there for a moment. And I can concentrate on that. I might need to go grab a wax in a minute as well. Every level of my crafting room was in action earlier on today. I can see some bits on the green where I clearly was colourblind and missed them completely, but there you are. Let's just shuffle that there. Pick that up. Because we seem to have managed to have missed that bit completely. Not that I'm a perfectionist, you have to understand. But if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. So let's just... And the other thing is, when paint is wet, sometimes glare from the wet or shine from the wet paint means that actually you don't see bits that you've missed, particularly so if you're working with black. There we are. Right, I don't want red on me, but I do want to seal these. So this could just, I'm using fluid gloss, it could be pouring glaze, or it could just as easily be any form of varnish. You know, I did have out a matte varnish, but I think this is going to be quicker. For just covering this lot. I'm not going to use a particularly delicate or nice brush for this activity, and you can argue that the biscuits should be matte, but you know, if you give them a nice shiny glaze, they can be whatever colour you want, can't they? So let's just give these. It's just that this will protect the paint long term, and they're going on a box, and it also makes it easier for removing stuff that you don't perhaps want in the same place. And if you're going to use pen for your details, then you definitely want to do that after you've done this. Yeah. And I think it's absolutely not, you know, it's not worth missing out these steps when you're crafting. It's totally makes sense to me to, if you're spending the time to make a project, then you want to have it looking nice at the end of the day. So, and you want it to have longevity. Well, I do anyway, so you may feel differently, but I certainly do. Yeah. We'll add, as I say, we're going to add into these, so they're not going to stay single coloured anyway. Right, let me just wipe that brush because it's got some red paint added into it, which is not what I want for. Little girls in particular. And if you're an absolute perfectionist, you do this twice, but there are limits even to my. So that is still not dry in its steps, so let me just get this dry before we can do the next bits. We've got a good number watching, which is lovely. Haven't managed to send anyone off to sleep yet, I hope. Maybe I have sent people off to sleep. Who knows? Who knows? I shall carry on. Assume that everyone is happy. No one has any questions. If you have, please just say. It's not. Leave that. Right, excellent. Hopefully, Mr. Scotty Dog is now properly dry. As I say, I will add the. I'm going to do some distressing, and then. And I'm not using brown, Anthony. You don't need to go, and she's going to cover it all in brown, because I've got enough brown on this project without adding more brown to it, I feel. You're enjoying sewing? Yeah, I might find some cross-stitch kits for the winter. I've got plenty of them. No brown, Anthony. Brown is not featuring. I'm thinking icing sugar rather than brown soot and burnt offerings. There's enough brown up for the gingerbread, isn't there? There we are. Definitely see where I've picked up some red paint in with that lot. Oh, hey ho. There we are. Right, shovel that in there. That can go there. That can go there. That can go there. That can go up there. Let's move some of these out of harm's way. I'm rather hoping she says de-sticky the fingers. Because otherwise I'm going to get red paint over everything. Right, there's a bit of luck. It's not quite dry, so just bear with. So this is the pop box lid that I painted with the mahogany and then added the crackle glaze medium over the top, and it's been sitting in front of the heater, but hasn't quite dried. I can still see that there's some areas that are too wet, so just bear with. I don't want it to bubble. That's the only problem, of course, drying mediums, isn't it? Is that if you're not careful, it will bubble up. Drying level 5. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get there. So the key to this is to keep your heat gun moving so that the box warms up gradually, but you don't bubble your mediums. There are a couple of areas where I haven't followed my own counsel and where it is bubbling a bit, but I'll live with that. But I really do need to have it, at least so it's touch dry. And I can see it's still very sharp. Yeah, in areas it's still very wet. Oh, she says, it's smashing into things and upending one of her poor little ladies. So let's just turn her over, pop her out of the way, pop that over there, stick that over there. We'll create a little bit more room. There we are, stop them sticking while we're at it. So whilst that's doing that, we'll just give these a little bit of a blast at the same time. because these also need to be dried, so I might as well, yeah. Okay. Right, my patience is wearing thin. Doesn't take much, does that? There we are. We don't need the pink open, so that can be lidded. Do you think I might use a lot of this one? So this is just ivory, and I don't know that you can get these big pots anywhere at the moment, but there's plenty in here. It's got a, we will debunk the O. But if there's a colour that you know you use lots of, then I would suggest that you buy it in the biggest pot that you can, because you will regret, you will go through it. So this, and I always use a dab of Dauber for this. It gives a bit of texture, and it's important that you don't overwork this medium, the bottom medium on these. So I'm deliberately loading my Dauber, because if you go back over areas once they've started to dry, all that will happen is that you start to lift your crackle, and there's no well, you can dab on a bit more paint, but you have to be really, really careful when you do that, otherwise you'll find that you basically lift off what you want. I will clean up my I know I'm breaking the rules, but I am being very careful when I do that. Okay. So let's just move those over there. That can go over there. Let's just shovel that way. Oh, she says. I've just scratched it. That wasn't helpful. Don't want that lump either. Okay. So there we are. And if you're going to use a brush for this, then make sure that you load it and you swipe once, top to bottom. You will get a different effect. There is no question about it to the one that I get. It will still crackle, it will still look beautiful. It will be a bit more uniform. This will be very, very random, which is why I like this way of doing it. Don't want that on there. And you can move it while it's wet, but once it starts to dry, you definitely can't. And you think I put an awful lot of paint out when I put that white out, or the ivory out, but actually I'm going to use the vast majority of it. Get out. There we are. Oh. Okay. Right. Excellent. That can go there. Hopefully that's sorted. I now need all of these pieces to dry, so let's just move them all into an area where put that there with that there, because most of these are reasonably dry now. And we can add the details in. Okay, so we said that we were going to distress these, and we absolutely are. I could have gone for the pearl shimmer, but I'm actually going for white antiquing gel for this one, and I'm hoping that it will give these a bit of a pinwheel appearance. They're not quite dry. I can tell that they're not quite dry, but hey ho. There we are. So we've got a little bit of a pinwheel. And I definitely think for these this is easier than trying to paint each stripe in separately. Don't ask me why I've done 5, but hey ho. Get that into the guts. Oh yeah, definitely needed 4. We'll do the 5 anyway, it's there, isn't it? So remember ladies, the antiquing gel is easily removed when it's wet, but once it's dry it is permanent and gives a protective surface. So there we are. So don't try doing the whole lot in one go, because you'll then end up having to repaint everything. It absolutely is wipe on, wipe off. But when you start to compare the two, it just allows you to bring back in the details, and it sits in the gap, in the recesses. So rather than, you know, if I added a wax, I could bring some of the details back for sure, but that sits on the surface and not into the recesses. So, and I just think that the white is softer for this project. You may think I'm mad. Right, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So you are dry. So let's just, you know, you think, that mad woman, she spent ages painting that beautifully. Put all that detail in, spent ages, and now she's slathered it. and you've got control. You can take off as much or as little as you want. And again, it's helping to define some of the shapes. And of course, if you use the same baby wipe that you use for all of them, then you start swapping and removing and putting back on what's on your baby wipe, because the baby wipe will become saturated. There we are. Let's find a clean bit of baby wipe. I've got stuff on the back of there. I can feel shiny stuff into here. There we are. Let's just take let's retrieve all of these. You will be glad to know, ladies, that we are approaching a good place. And apart from some sticking and some drying, because I might not add the stenciling to the inside, I might tell you what I'm going to do. Because by the time we've done the outside, we'll have to wait for the inside to dry. There we are. And we've managed to knock off some of the brown paint there, so let me just put it back in. My fault. My bad. There we are. So 2 more to go. And the reason I varnish it is that actually it just protects everything whilst you're walking. When you're wiping back, it just it just allows you to do it. The white just makes a huge difference. You could do it with Umbra if you didn't, but I'm sort of thinking that I didn't want to add any more extra brown to this project. And it just does make such a huge difference. And these pots of paste are only about a £5. So yeah, it looks like I'm using a lot of it, but actually it's a relatively cheap medium, certainly cheaper than your Umbra Patina wax, and there is a white antique paste. But I didn't necessarily want a shiny effect. Now this would be the only headache now, because before I touch anything else I do need to get this stuff off my hands, and it really is, once it's dry, quite difficult. I love the antiquing gels, and I mean they've got lots of browns, so they've got ochre, they've got a green. Am I doing the doggy? Well, there's a question. Of course I'm meant to be doing the blinking doggy. Thanks, Sue. Thanking you. Well spotted. For the idiots in the house. There we are. The doggy definitely needs to be done. You're all very helpful, ladies and gentlemen. There we are. That's everyone asking, all at the same time, and then appearing at different times in my feed, because that's what Facebook does, isn't it? There we are. So there is our doggy. Let me just clear some of that. There we are. Right. Ugh. Right, now I'll re-clean my hands. No, it was me that had missed it, Anthony. Because. Right, let's just point that up there. That can go up there. Those can go over there. That can go over there. That can go over there. That can go there. That can go over there. That can go over there. That can go over there. Let's see how well. Unless your box lid has cracked. Well, it's beginning. Oh, and it's got a hair in it. That's typical, isn't it? And I bet you if I try lifting... No, I'm going to leave that hair for posterity. So if I lift this up here, I think it's beginning to crackle. It won't take very long. I think it's a bit glaring. Yeah, I think I'm getting more glare than I am helpfulness from the... And this is another one of those things where, because it's Pentart, you can heat dry, but my preference is always to let my mediums dry naturally where I can. I can't add anything on the top of here now until I've got this dry, because otherwise I'll disturb it all. And that's Mr. Hair God. So just bear with while we get this. Thank you, Anthony. It's always difficult. I've just made a mess of my crackle as well in one area. I can see that I've lifted it there, so I'm just going to fill it in. That's my fault for messing with it before it was completely dry, because there was a big blob there that I didn't like the look of. it is a nice crackle medium, and it, as I say, I like the pouncing technique because it just allows me to have a very, very varied mixture of crackles. I need the top to dry though before I can do the next thing. So my intention is so that if people are getting fed up, they can settle down. I've just got a piece here that is wetter than I want it to be. And my gel mediums are tucked underneath there. Right, excellent. So I will let this carry on drying off air. On the inside of the box, you can choose, ladies and gentlemen, but I will do this off camera. I have two stencils. One says, eat, drink and be merry. So, let me show you where I intend. So when the box opens, I'm going to put either eat, drink and be merry or cookie baking crew. Your choice, ladies, and I will do it off air with some glaze paste, and then I'm going to put the boy and the girl inside and I'll neaten the edges up at that point. So if you tell me whether you want eat, drink and be merry or cookie baking crew for the stencil on the inside of the cookie baking crew. Cool. Now those stencils came from Amazon, so they're easily retrieved. There's a whole collection of them. Cookie baking crew it is. So I'll do that when it's had a chance to dry. And yep, that looks like we've got a pretty unanimous set of decisions there for cookie making crew. There we are. There we are. Now I could be fanatical and get a stick out and measure everything, but at this point, but I'm not going to be. Good enough will be good enough. Okay. So we're going to have Mama, Dada. They do all fit. There we are. These two are going to go either side of the stencil, but this lot needs to properly dry. So let's just lift up here, and again, once it's properly dried, I might just cautiously, just carefully add a little bit of wax to the buttons. Make sure that that's got enough to set that up. So, Dada. And this is literally, it is just heavy body gel. It's nothing fancy. I'm being moderate. I'm making sure I've got a reasonable layer. My resins are quite flat on the back. Makes a change because they're often not. And I don't want it squidging out at the edges because it dries white, in spite of what other people might want to say. Get them reasonably straight. Cool. So I think there are still a few shops in the UK that have the gingerbread mould in place. Yeah, they do. I'm going to have him down there. But they're not your average crafting shops. So if you're looking for it, you need to look for at some of the home decor shops. So just like Home Interiors is based up in Newcastle, is one of them. Or Google IOD designs and have a little hunt around. Don't go down the Etsy path unless you're really desperate to spend a small fortune, because they definitely have them on at a silly price on Etsy. Good evening, Blanche. And I could pop him up on there, but I'm not going to. Actually, I am going to, because I think he's going to look better. No, I'm not, because he's going to be a problem if I land him up there. So let me just clear that mucky gel. Give these all a little wiggle. Pop the lid on that. Pop that out of the way. Pop that out of the way. And because it wouldn't be a me project without controlled splatters, let's just take some of this and where's a nice favourite brush? Add and there is definitely such a thing as adding too many splatters. She says, quite happily adding more. But I do like little splatter to pull things together, and we might well, because we've got white added in, we're going to find a white, some white paint. Oh, I don't want me modelling paste though. That won't do. That's not what you want. There we are. There's my white. There we are. And because my paintbrush is slightly dirty, I've not got white, which is cool. So it'll be very subtle in the background, but it will be there. There we are. So, having splattered myself, thank you very much, Jan. Thank you very much. So I will leave this to dry. Once it's all set, ladies and gentlemen, I will stencil the inside and add the other two pieces to the inside of the box, if that's okay. And I will add some splatters to the outside, or maybe not, depending on the rest of it, or maybe not. So that is my intention. I'm sorry to have kept you quite so long. hopefully I'll get it done tomorrow morning, Anthony. Don't forget, ladies, I am live on Pentart's page tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock UK time. So hopefully I will see you there. Take care, have a good evening, bye for